sitting in the back, and I'm the one pointing at you most of the time. So if you want to reschedule or change your seats, you can come in front. Otherwise, I would acknowledge you guys more, ask more questions to you, and it would be more interactive event. No offense. So my name is Aarik. I'm from Germany. I'm part of Metro Digital. If you guys don't know, Metro Digital is an affiliated organization for Metro AG, the Metro cash and carry business. So it's a B2B wholesale business model, and we, Metro Digital, provide the technological landscapes, products, services, and tools to Metro and its all other affiliated companies. I'm an engineering manager, and I like to play around certain tools and so on. For example, security, right? And one of the aspects that at least we have seen due to political situations in the last 2 years, we faced insane amount of DDoS. By the way, just raising of hands, who knows what a DDoS is? Okay, so for those who did not raise your hand, DDoS is distributed denial of service. And we will go through it, what exactly it is. This is exactly there. By the way, as a disclaimer, and not disclaimer, make it more interactive, there are Easter eggs in this presentation. So there are 45 presentation slides. Just kidding, there are 4. Only 4. There are Easter eggs hidden in this presentation. If you are able to figure it out, you'll get chocolates. And I have my really lovely colleagues in the back. You can look at them. There are chocolate boxes there for everyone who figure out. Also, anyone who raises their hand, ask a question, say this is cool, bad, thumbs down, any kind of interaction, they also get chocolate. This is how we roll. So what is distributed denial of service? Basically, this is one picture I took from Wikipedia. Because that's the only open source picture I'm allowed to use, apparently. So there is an attacker, which is basically trying to take you off the online visibility area, like taking your website off. Then there are certain architectures. We will not go into how to do a DDoS, because that's not the part of the agenda, but there is some specific areas. And what you need to understand is zombies. Why they're zombies is basically because your smart refrigerator can be a zombie as well. You wouldn't know it's hacked, and it's doing a small level of request call to a specific server, right? It can become target, or it can target a specific server. So that's why they call it zombie, because they can be known, you can spin it up. I actually have it running. I'll show you later as well. By the way, then, how are we going to protect, and why? Right? That's the most important part. Why? Well, if you have website, either e-commerce, content, rich text, rich media, and so on, you would like to keep it up all times, right? Because you have worldwide customers, 24/7, 99.99% availability, SLA, and so on. Apart from architecture level, where you can do certain things, you can have disaster recovery, you still have to take care of security layer, like the main door of the building, right? And that would be the DDoS protection services. So, but how do we do it? And we're going to just go through an architectural diagram, and trust me, that's the last slide. Then, going to the architecture. First things first, who of you guys actually work with Google Cloud? Oh my God. I think I would be doing a Google Cloud onboarding session then. Yeah, that would be cool, right? So we are going to use certain products from Google Cloud, but it is not limited to Google Cloud. You will find the similar products with different names in Azure, AWS, and other. You can build it yourself as well. So first of all, we start with something. You know Kubernetes. Who does Kubernetes? Okay. Guys, are you really giving the real feedback? All the other people don't know what Kubernetes is? Honestly. Okay. But you see, you have to pay attention. That's a very good thing. I didn't say if you use it. I said, do you know it? I asked the specific question. So that's fine. It's a containerized approach. You get rid of the OS dependencies. You have more, smaller, encapsulated working machines and so on. So we are using Google Kubernetes engine. They call it GKE. So in case I use that abbreviation. And we create an application, right? I have an application running. You guys can all and will and should all scan the QR code I will show in the next slide and open it up. What we're going to do is, okay, so this is, don't look at this one. I can go back. So GC ingress controller. So you know Nginx, right? Oh, I see. That's the motivation. So Nginx, there are controllers. So what we are doing is we are using Kubernetes to configure all the other resources. We do not go to the console like in the UI and click it. We configure by creating configurations in Kubernetes controllers, Nginx, Google have its own controller, and so on. It's also applicable for the other cloud platforms, by the way. And then you don't have to maintain those resources. If something goes down, it automatically keeps the state. And we do it via Terraform. Who knows what is Terraform? Yeah, that's great. So we create this GCE ingress controller because 9 months ago when I started doing this POC and was planning how to do it, figured out Nginx controller doesn't support certain configurations. And we, in order to complete the whole picture, are limited. So we go for GC ingress controller. Load balancing, well, this is your HTTP, HTTPS load balancer, right? Then we are going to basically just connect it. And all of the dotted lines, by the way, are configured in Kubernetes. And I can show you, and I can also share the code with you if you guys ever want to understand or maybe go into implementation. Then Cloud CDN, just because I have some fancy pictures on the page, which you will see on the mobile, just to not get that overhead on the Kubernetes engine. Then Cloud Armor. Now, that's the thing. And as the name says, Cloud Armor. It's like an armor for this. This is the decoupled part. So Cloud Load Balancing actually is your load balancer. But the WAF, or the firewall, is Cloud Armor. That's the name of the product in Google security product set, that Cloud Armor actually is the WAF layer. And the best part about this, and I really like it, and I even use Cloud Armor to defend other backends, which are hosted either on-premises, in Azure, maybe in Linode, or other cloud providers. You can use one single product, Cloud Armor, for protecting any kind of backends anywhere else. So we are going to reCAPTCHA. Who knows reCAPTCHA? Yeah, I mean, you guys have all proven yourself out that you are real human beings, right? Not bot. I mean, some of this fails, but yeah, that's not me. That's Azuka talking in me when I fail a reCAPTCHA. So in general, this is the entire picture, but we're missing one thing. Well, we need to talk about customer, right? So this is the customer, and this is basically the overflow. So if you want to take a picture, you can take a picture now, because we are going to go away from the presentation. Imagine if I skip it now. Yeah, the awkward silence. Yeah, it's killing me. But anyway, I think that this recording will be within a month, and it was shared that it will be on YouTube. You can look at the camera if you want to be on YouTube. I love to. So it's just going to be there. But now we are going to go to the next step. First of all, I want you to take out your mobile phone, disconnect Wi-Fi. That's one of the important aspects, because I'm playing around, some doing fancy stuff there, high Wi-Fi. Open or refresh the page with your mobile internet. The reason I'm doing this is because if you are connected to Wi-Fi, the exit IP for all of your traffic would be same. And we have some DDoS protection there, right? We don't want you to see a bad emoji face in the screen. Use your mobile internet, please. So you see the fancy pictures on the page? Yeah. And if you guys know, you might be able to notice the domain name, it definitely works for .me, have a typo. So I literally was really bad when I was buying it. There is a typo, definitely is misspelled, and I couldn't do it because I already paid for it, right? So, sorry? Yeah, it was on sale. Yeah, exactly. I went to the Google Cloud, I was like, let me try it, and for me, for us, for you. And then I was like, oh, 30 euros for 5 years? Why not? So it was pretty cheap. Now we are going to move away from the presentation. And there we go. First things first. Oh, is it visible? Or should I? I think this is much better, right? Great. So now you will be able to connect. I will show you the application as well. But this is the Cloud Armor I was talking about. And we are going to really look at Cloud Armor right now. Not load balancer, not Kubernetes, nothing. Just Cloud Armor and beyond, which is reCAPTCHA and so on. So in Cloud Armor, you can create configurations. Like, first of all, policy, the group level policy. You can use one single policy for multiple backends. You can have one policy for each backend, because that is the, what do you call it, presentation layer. You cannot have more than different rule sets for different backend within the same policy. So that's why targets is important, rules, and there is a limit. One of the things that I really don't like about Google Cloud, at least for now, is that there are limits which you can very easily reach. So if you want to be like hyper safe and you go aggressive, I will create 50 rule sets defending myself from every single thing. You will end up like, oh, the limit is 49 maybe. So there are these awesomely weird images. I mean, no. So we go to the policy. But now we are talking about the WAF here. So Cloud Armor provides pre-configured rules. So for example, you see this one. This is actually what's called threat intelligence. And I would recommend really to look at it, because this is threat intelligence not just in Google Cloud. Azure also provides, AWS also provides, and Akamai also provides. This is basically predefined rule sets from all the information that all these cloud providers are having in the market. Like, let's say an IP is flagged by Azure as a DDoS attacker, right? Then that flag also eventually propagates to all the cloud provider, and that can be tracked. You can block that malicious IP by default. So there are pre-configured rules for different kind of threats. And this is there, that's the easy part. So you see, I have lots of deny. I mean, you can really try, but all of this is completely done by default. So, well, that's the IP list, Tor exit node, and the very important part. Who of you know what Tor is? Yeah. Okay, so Tor basically is a browser, but Tor network is basically the underlying infrastructure network. But what it does is it is anonymous network, an anonymous web. So if you ever heard the word dark web, it starts exactly here. And then below that, there is a deep web and everything, but yeah. And why this is important is majority of the DDoS attacks ever happen, which ever hits the news headline, are done by Tor network because they're anonymous, right? The only thing that you can track is the exit node of network. So it's like a spider web, but the last string that connects to its wall or something, basically that's the exit node for Tor. And all the requests coming towards the attacker are coming from there. And those are flagged by all these public providers, and they have been created in a list, and you can creatively, by default, filter them out. You need to take care of this. We are going into a world of privacy in future, right? Every customer wants to be private because oh God, they even know which fridge I own. And now I'm having an advertisement about something on top of it, right? So it's a lot of information about all of us are there. So we are going in an anonymous world. I mean, this privacy thing is coming up. If you don't want your customers to not use Tor, you want to track them always, this would be a good idea, right? But you have to make sure, yes. Yeah. Yes, you are absolutely right. And that's where the, let's say, there's this smart feature comes in. First of all, Poftabuna. Yes, yes. So you are absolutely right, but not that much. So the percentage or percentile of these IP fluctuations is insignificant. Imagine this, there are 100 Tor exit nodes in the whole world, right? If 5 of them change, you really don't really care because those 5 will not be able to do a distributed denial of service. Like imagine 95 are blocked, which is really distributed, and those 5 will know. And eventually, the behavior of a specific IP through all the search engines and all these tracking, all the traffic analysis is lively done by Google, Azure, AWS, and so on, shared with each other, and then the flagging of malicious IPs happen. Google even have an internal team dedicatedly doing this. They get alarms, threats based on certain rule sets, and they're like, okay, just mark it as malicious. And I have been there. My IP, for some reason, was marked as malicious. So in the middle of my own POC, I was blocked. And I was wondering what happened, reach out to Google, and they were like, hey, sorry, your static IP, talk to Vodafone. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. So that's because I'm always doing DDoS also for preventing DDoS, so it's playing around. And it's very sensitive, by the way. I mean, if you open certain bad websites, oh, yes. Yes, I wish we were living in a horse world, but we are in a donkey world. Every single enterprise actually have their own complete independent database. They don't want to share it, not with each other, but they won't even share it with you. I reached out to them, I said, tell me all the IPs that are behind, right? They were like, no, sorry. Wait for 10 years, maybe new CEO opens it up, right? So it's completely wild. So there is this, but you have to really balance it out. You do POCs for a specific reason. You test it out. You roll it out for 10% customers and so on, and see if there are complaints and so. This goes for also like this, like you see my awesome website. I don't want it to be the most visited website in the world by Google, so I blocked all the search engine crawlers. So here, Google is maintaining all the search engine IPs from Bing, DuckDuckGo, Google itself, and you can just by default deny them. This is the malicious IP one. This is the specific one where your mobile internet also can be flagged as malicious. By the way, all of you who opened their QR code on their mobile phone, I already know about you a little bit more. So I'll tell you how. Because you see that reCAPTCHA in the corner, right? You have the reCAPTCHA, I mean GDPR, of course. So we already have a flag about how your IP actually is rated in general public. Or reCAPTCHA Enterprise is one of the things, but I'll show you later on. So, and then we comes to the real WAF, right? This is like the icing on the cake, and then we are going to the bread section now. And then you have this pre-configured WAF, and you would already know what SQLi is, right? What RCs are, like remote code injection or execution. These are different categories. And there is a huge list Google maintains publicly in documentation. You can go through it. Oops. Excusez-moi. Oh, maybe the DDoS. Oh, it was my laptop, sorry. They're not inviting me next year for sure. Please come back. Please. Oh, come on, it's... There we go. Oh, God. I have to keep moving my mouse then. So you see, OWASP rules are there. They recently released in February 3.3 version. So, and I've played around with it. You will notice one thing. Out of all the deny, there is one that is in preview. By the way, preview mode is for like, you can log it, but it will not do any action on it, right? So you can get the logs, you can see what your application really is played around with, and there are different web scrapers. Who knows what web scraper is? I like this audience. So by the way, just to give you one more heads up, web scrapers are basically different, or you can use different tools, you can create your own. It's small kind of scraping means they're scratching the edge of your firewall. So it's like DDoS protection is there, right? You have rate limiting, you have throttling, you might even have reCAPTCHA and so on. If someone like me, or even more smarter, want to do a DDoS on you, they would try to do analysis. Months before the actual attack, they will run scrapers against your website. What they do is, they try to, at 2 a.m. in the morning or something, try to send 50 requests from one random IP and see if any of those were blocked and so on. Then from different IP, from different part of the world, they'll try 25. They will try to find out what exactly is your throttling limit, what exactly is your rate limit. Because the most important part of a DDoS attack is for them to figure out what is the level of limiting. So imagine this, you allow 100 requests per second in your application, right? If I use 2 IPs, I can send 5,000 requests per second, but only 200 will go to the backend. Simple rate limiting. But if I open 50,000 IP addresses from all over the world and send 5 requests, it's already 250,000 requests. And since you have these rate limiting on IP level, which means only one single IP will send or block the number of requests, you are 50,000 IPs. And it's so easy, you won't believe how easy it is to get these zombies and these IPs all across the world. The largest DDoS we got in last 2 years was 11,500 something unique IPs from 147 countries. And it was only focused to one single website, metro.de. It was the German homepage for our e-commerce website. And that scale was so horizontal because it was distributed, right? Our rate limiting was very aggressive. We had 5 requests per second rate limiting, or even 4 requests per second. But because it ran under that radar, everything went to the back end. And infrastructure is scaling. Exactly. Not like down, but first you will have auto scaling and so on, right? So the new nodes are spinning up. Well, it will take some time. New pods are scanning. Oh, there is a startup script that will run. And 15 minutes later, the request count goes to 5 million. So you are actually delaying the process of recovery phase. So the mean time to recovery, the shorter it is, the shorter your scale-up time is, you are more prone to protect yourself from DDoS. But there is no master key. That's the aspect. You cannot have one configuration on rate limiting or any kind of infrastructure scaling which solves the problem. So you need to defend it from the get-go, from the door. Yes? Business to business, yes. We do. I mean, we even put CDN, but imagine this. On our website, if you open metro.de, you will go through the page. Every single thing on the... Without login, yes. And every single thing on that page is coming via CDN. The only thing which cannot come from CDN because it's dynamic is the document itself, the doc, the main response of the page itself. And that is enough. It means one refresh is one request to the backend. This is how much we optimize, and still we went down for, I think, 2 hours. We were down and we couldn't recover. There was nothing we could do. We were just, oh wow, it's scaling up. Nothing. We couldn't even touch any mouse. But good question. So you have to take care of it. Whenever you are working about DDoS, the minimum amount of traffic you send to your backend is the best approach. So CDN is one of the default things, and thank you for highlighting. Otherwise, I would have skipped because I'm too much into Cloud Armor stuff right now. So this WAF are these pre-configured rule sets that you can filter out, and there are sub rule sets as well. This is the entire group. Every single group actually includes different set of policies, and sensitivity that defines which policies will be included. So sensitivity 4 is the strongest one, which means every single request that void every or any type of OWASP policy will be blocked by default. So this is the thing. You have to fine-tune which policies is applicable for you and which not, because there is also false positive. You wouldn't believe how every application in the world actually voids, or the request structures, the API calls, void one of these OWASP policies by default. I've never seen a perfection in this regard ever. So I added this SQLi v33 stable in preview mode, which means disabled but log, because I'm using an HTML file with no SQL, no database, nothing, and it still blocks my request because of this. So I have no idea why any kind of simple request, get request is going for this. So I have to just block it so that you guys can open it on your phone. But now, before it gets logged and the screen goes, we go back. So while we were talking, I did a little something. Oh, looks like, yeah, so I started a DDoS attack for fun. It's like 3,000 requests per second to the IP that you guys scanned and opened, right? And you were anyone who was not able to get the page when you scanned the QR code. You didn't open it? Yes, yes. Yes, the ad blocker, I also disabled the ad blocker. I mean, here you have this ad blocker installed. If I do this, I have to disable it. If I don't, then something doesn't work. Well, it's working for some reason. Exactly, the ghost. Yeah, so now it comes back. But there is a thing. So we did a DDoS, or I did a DDoS. And as you can see, there were 6 zombies I spin up in different parts of Europe. And these are the application pods. And you can see auto-scaling was there. But you all ideally should have gotten the response. So right there in this right now, there was no protection at all whatsoever. I just wanted to see if something has triggered. And the part where it comes is exactly here. This is the preview mode right now, which is for public, which is the auto deployment, for which means you don't have to filter any request, any IP towards your traffic. Google decides, based on your traffic itself, this is malicious, or this is acting weird, because it creates a baseline traffic. So what, by the way, baseline traffic is from your day-to-day work, day-to-day customer, consumer usage, how is the traffic looks like, how the traffic line graph looks like. And that's a baseline that Google creates every 24 hours, and then it gets more accurate with time, because during Christmas, you have more traffic, during summer less, because it's vacation, and so on. So you create the baseline, and on top of that, you use this rule. What it does is, it automatically creates a blocking rule for malicious IP and so on. It has no jurisdiction for us to define what should be the rule things. It is so easy. You just write the query and that's it. Simply, that's it. You don't have to define what kind of IP section would be or anything. So it automatically recommends you a rule. And I will show you exactly how it recommends. If you go to Cloud Armor, which not UI, I can't go there. I have to go take you there. There we go. Please tell me there was a... Okay. These zombies are old zombies. They are like... I'm using it to do these DDoS from 1 week now. And this Google knows that, hey, this guy is playing around. It's his application and it's his zombies. So right now it didn't. But I'm going to go to history because I was making sure that there you go. So I'm going to go with this instance, which is, yeah. So I did some DDoS, and these were the fresh zombies at that time. So these were completely new public IPs and so on. And as you can see, there is an automated alert created. And this alert is by default provided by Google. And if you click on View Signature, you will basically automatically see what happened. They show what are the number of allowed requests that hit the backend, because everything is centrally configured. Then you get the confidence level. Google thinks 62.26% that it is a DDoS. I can confirm it's 100% DDoS. Yeah. Then you can see the attack was coming from Belgium, from 2 different IPs, and then it provides by default a rule, recommended rule, which is, okay, this should be the priority. You can put it in preview only right now and then log it, and then you can enable it. Impact traffic, attack traffic, sorry, 100%. Impact baseline traffic. Based on how Google or Cloud Armor learns your day-to-day real traffic, customer traffic, right? It gives you a very concrete percentage, like what it thinks would be the impact on the actual customer trying to opening your website as compared to the attacker. So it's also about you have to balance. Sometimes you might make few of your customers unhappy, but you will keep your website up and running for everyone else, right? So we cannot make everyone happy. In this case, I was happy because you can see 0% customer baseline because, well, I'm the only one using it until now, and then 100% impact. You just click on apply rule, it applies it. It creates the rule set, and you can change it afterwards into not preview, go to the Cloud Armor, change it to apply or allow. Afterwards, you will see this unique part, alert ID. Wow. So Google actually keep tracks of this. Now think about this, or Cloud Armor, this WOF. It need to understand that, okay, now we're blocking the attack, right? But when should we revert back? Or are we ever going to revert back? Or is it a manual thing? And that's the best part. It merges the baseline traffic with your new traffic, because you have given an approval to the Cloud Armor, like saying, hey, if 0.3% traffic is impacted, you can block it, but keep this 98% of traffic block, like with the real attack traffic. And the best part is, attack signature is the terminology, like the countries, the IP list, the subnet combinations, right? The SSN, ASNs, which providers are they using, which Tor network, or so on. These are the unique identifier that makes an attack signature. You change one parameter, and it's a different attack signature. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think now we're going in real world cases, right? And you're absolutely right. We do that. Google is all the time aware of what we are doing. In fact, I told them, hey, I'll throw money at your feet. Please do a DDoS for me, because I don't want to configure it and so on. They said, no, we cannot. First of all, you are in Europe. So GDPR and all the legal implications that comes on top of it. Then Germany and so on. So they tell us that you are allowed to use our products for your own testing. Of course, that would be an implication that is only owned by our enterprise. So if we use Google Cloud, or which is my Google project, and I DDoS, let's say, one of your website, that's not a problem for Google, because Google cannot control or restrict or always have governance for every single thing we do or their customer do. It's the customer who is doing the attack, and the one who is getting attacked is the party involved. And this was clarified by them as well. Ah. You see, there are differences, actually. There are what is the policy in AWS, if I may ask? So you are... Yes? Doesn't it creates an overhead of task? In my opinion, I wouldn't like to do this manual stuff when I'm testing my own website. Okay, but it's also about then the qualitative. So it's not just quantitative, it's qualitative. And if you think about this, actually Google is smarter, because Google is routing majority of the internet traffic. They have majority of the analysis, details, and information on the traffic. So they can predict things faster as compared to AWS. Yes, absolutely. Oh, apple, oranges, that kind of situation. By the way, I would like to upgrade the 2 chocolates for our colleague. Thank you so much for this interactive approach. Yes. No worries.
So how exactly does Google establish the percentage of it being DDoS attack? Because it was pretty low.
Yes. So the overall confidence is low, which is, and this is basically because this website, if you see, I will show you like a lifetime history. If I go 30 days of the website that you guys opened, look at it. There were absolutely nearly no qualitative and quantitative data for Google to predict the baseline. Do you see I don't know if you can see the breaks in blue line, which means not even single request. And this is hours and days long. So Google will be like, okay, this is intermittent. Like sometimes there is no request on this web page, and sometimes it comes 5, sometimes 50. So what's going on? So that's why the confidence level is lower. However, the impact, on the other hand, you will see it's much high, because Google is not sure if this is an attack because of inconsistency in baseline, but it surely can confirm that if you apply this rule, only this attack traffic or predicted attack traffic will be impacted. All the other people who were requesting or opening your pages, these ones will be completely filtered out. So they can still open the website, aka you guys were able to open your website. However, the attack would have been prevented. Does that answer? It's not everything. And that's exactly a key aspect as well. That's why this auto deploy, which I was showing you guys before, is another thing that we have to fine tune. It's a responsibility on developers as well. Do we want auto deployment of these policies, right? If you have a marketing campaign, you want to, let's say, free iPad for someone, and that goes to 20,000 people who want to win iPad. You get 1 million, let's say you get 100 or 1,000 times more traffic. For Google, that would be an attack if you think about it. So you do not want to block the real legitimate traffic due to marketing campaigns or any kind of PR-related activities. So you wouldn't recommend or go for the automated deployment. And that's exactly why in production, we are not using auto-deploy. It's just for me to share with you that there is a possibility. 9 months ago when I did this, I wanted to add something, but yeah. Yeah, so 9 months ago when we added this auto deploy only had 2 options, rate limiting and throttling. So throttling, you guys know what throttling is, right? Can you raise hand? Okay. So there are some people who don't know. So throttling is basically in specific amount of time, a specific number of requests allow. And on top of that, you stop. So let me give you an example. 60 seconds, 60 requests. That's if you put a throttle limit. And if someone sends 100 requests within that 60 second, 60 requests will be allowed to go to the backend, and all the other 40 requests will be denied. And you can decide which response code you want to provide. But the moment the needle comes back to the 60 second, the counter resets. And the next 60 count will start again for that duration. So X amount of time, X amount of requested, and then you stop it. Rate limiting is, you limit it, you put conditional impact on that. So you have rate limiting, like you also do throttling. Throttling is always part of rate limiting. But on top of that, you can block, you can do actions. So for example, I want to block anyone who try to open my website from a specific IP who is sending 500 requests every minute or every second. Because it's a customer I do not want to care about. And that's a very good thing, because all the DDoS attacks and all these widespread distributed attack that comes, SNM flooding, TCP flooding, they always try to behave like a customer, but they are not really a customer. And that's the reason why they work very strategically. No attack just goes like, hey, there is a 1 million euro for dark web, and then you just do an attack. There is a very much lot of planning happens. And we have done that forensics to be able to even figure out those web scrapers. We saw these scrapings at very, very random frequency and different amount and so on. And you see the aggressiveness. The more the duration or the time of the attack is coming, the scraping gets more aggressive. And eventually there is the big bomb. He was first. Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and it would really make our world a better place. But unfortunately, this kind of legal governance, doing it on European level or enterprise level, is quite hard to achieve. Not just from execution level, but someone like yourself have to go and step up somewhere and convince a group of people, and it's like a scalable factor. So it's like politics is a small process or a slow process. It will take a lot of times. Yes, but it's going. So they have gone, European Union have gone into the direction of privacy and legal aspects. For example, reCAPTCHA is one of the aspects that you will be surprised. French organization sued Orange in France. That's a company, a network company, I think. And because they were using Google reCAPTCHA, and Google reCAPTCHA was somehow not complying with their GDPR rules and so on. So there was this kind of fight that went around for long. And we are actually having a very huge footprint and business in France, right? So we are also thinking about it, because at one point I want to activate the reCAPTCHA thing on our website to be completely secure from these, and we can't. So there are legal implications and things happening around the globe, and Google is actively working to fix those issues and correct them, because EU does not have a clear distinction about security products or security reCAPTCHA compared to the other versions. And Google is saying this is security layer, it should be mandatory. It was basically for cookies. Every time you accept a reCAPTCHA, automated one as well, you get cookies. And cookie is the GDPR best thing. Like in GDPR, the big word is cookie. And that cookie is mandatory, optional, how you can user controls and so on. So there is a complication around it. There was another question. It's long working hours, sometimes bad weekends. Also, yeah.
And that customer puts a QR code on Times Square. And
wow.
can scan that QR code in that moment.
If we have organizer here, I would like to do that for Vox Days. Put my QR code everywhere, replace it. You're very right about this, but I don't think we have a problem there, because if someone also puts QR code, you should expect this the moment you are live on internet, right? You never know how the traffic, how the world will react to it. So this protection is not optional. This effort is not optional. Not in my recommendation. In my professional opinion, I recommend if you have huge traffic and if you have high business impact, don't do it for every single web application. Please do not do that. If you have 100 web applications, one of them is e-commerce, and 2 of them are the other financials, stakeholders, and so on, I would recommend to go for them. Do prioritization. That's how we actually do it. Even right now, this architecture is deployed not to everything, but our e-commerce platform, our core website that is hosting the primary domain and so on, which we use in social media, marketings, and everything, right? So the QR code that you will possibly print out or put it in Times Square is already protected by this. But there are lots and lots of other apps that are not. And that's the point. You have to see how to balance security versus availability versus business impact. Most probably, yes. And if the people who are opening have any flags on that IP, the confidence gets higher and higher and higher. But you need to see, the DDoS implies it's not a small trend. Like it doesn't go like slowly. It's basically, because if you try to do a DDoS, which is slow incremental increase, it's so easy to protect it. It's so easy to defend it, because you can start blocking it with, you will first of all detect it faster, and then you will have longer time to do an actionable thing, like scale up infrastructure and so on. By the time it's up to the limit of your current infrastructure, you can double or triple or quadruple the backgrounds, right? So DDoS main purpose is sharp, pointy edge on the spot. So there's like from your normal 1,000 requests per minute to 1 or 2 million requests per minute. So that's the whole point, and that's why. And they combine with scraping, they figure out your rate limiting. So you have to have a smart approach. So rate limiting will help for sure, but it does not prevent a DDoS. Yeah. Does that answer your questions? Okay, I think it's now it's like a legal confidential information kind of thing, so I'm a little sweating, right? But I will be in a nutshell provide you. So we had political instability in Europe recently, and due to that, and we have business there as well. So some people who don't like us in that aspect, that we still have business there, might look us with a weird eye and try something. So we had these attacks coming from there, and we could backtrack the sources as well, so we can confirm that okay, it's somewhere connected. And the amount of DDoS, we got 2 large-scale DDoS throughout 1.5 years. Large scale as in millions of requests per minute, 20 or 15,000 different IPs, and 148 countries. So you cannot manually go or do anything about blocking those one by one. You can't even write a script, because the script will take 20 minutes to start block them in firewall level. And on the smaller level, the DDoS happen quite often. So if I have to really give you an approximation, it would be 10 times a year. It's just we have too many enemies, man. I don't know why. Why people don't like us. And we sell food. Come on. Yeah. So any more questions? And by the way, chocolates for our colleague. Yes. No, no. That would be counterproductive. If an automated deployment creates, allow the traffic, not deny it. So, yeah. Yeah, yeah. There is a chance that you might, as a legitimate customer, be blocked because of the attack that is ongoing. Maybe I would like to add this why aspect, right? So why we are talking about DDoS per se? If this is so simple to implement, I will tell you the best part that we figured out. DDoS is actually, what do you call it? What's the word where you are distracted? It's a distraction. So DDoS is always a distraction. Nobody cares about your website not being online for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's basically for the person or the people who are owning that, right? For them to drop everything and try to bring the website up, because the real customers are having, it's a branding thing. You have brand impact. If your core website with 50,000 customers opening it every day goes down for 1 hour, right? It's a brand impact. You will lose real customer. It's a business impact. However, DDoS 95+% of the time is always a distraction. So they will do a DDoS, or they will get the guns to do the DDoS, but they will try to penetrate your system. And that can happen anywhere in your organization. So if you have 100 applications, you can do DDoS for the most prominent ones, with the ones you're actually having, and then you can try to penetrate those applications that you know on organization level might not be protected. So you see, we are going into a smarter world. We think, okay, we are working in corporate world. We are so many smart people. The attackers are also working in organization. They also have these strategies. Okay, they would think that way, and we would think that way. So it's like kind of counterproductive for both sides, but they both are adapting. So they are also adapting their strategies, scraping, then DDoS, then penetration. But we also know that they will do it. So we are like, how do we roll it out? And then our friend's question comes in. How do we make sure every single thing is protected? How much time does it need? How false positive clearance? It is a huge investment, but it is must needed one. I think if you do it one time, first of all, if you make a calculator in one language, like first time it might take 1 hour, but the next time you can do it in 6 minutes. It's also that. So the heavy lifting is always the beginning one, but afterwards it's fine tuning. And fine tuning can be also delegated across. So we do divide and conquer kind of thing. So we did a POC, right? Similar thing. And then we showed it to our engineers, and they were like, hey, would you like to try to protect your application? And I can attack it, you protect it. So we kind of did this gamification approach. So try to defend it or something. And that's like a motivation for people to just have fun, play around, and also integrate. Queues?
For example, you said that before the example with 100 requests, but only 60 allowed.
Yes, that's rate limiting. That's
The other 40 fail.
Yes, no, they will not fail. You actually can decide what to do. You can show them a GIF like a Rickroll I have, or you can do whatever you want with those 40, but not allow. So that's like real throttling, and rate limiting also has it. So I'll show you a rule actually, and maybe in UI, because then it would be, so this is right now a rule for rate limiting, rate ban. What it does is, it only allows 50 requests per minute from a unique IP address. And then, on top of that, it will block 16th request within that 60-second time frame. So you see, if you refresh the page more than 15 times in this application, the one that you opened on your QR code, 16th time it will show you 429, because it doesn't allow. But then the counter gets reset, then you are allowed 15 again. But if you do another 1 minute with 90 requests for some reason, or you're trying to scale up your strategy, you can block the IP for 5 minutes. So you see, it's like a strategic approach. We only first of all limit you, then afterwards we give you one more chance for the next 60 seconds, please correct your behavior. And if you try to go beyond that, and then we like, okay, that's your punishment. Which actually looks like a parenting, but I'm not a parent, so I have no idea. So this is the throttling part, this is basically the last chance, and this is punishment. Does it make sense?
Yeah, but I was wondering, for example, imagine a scenario, you have an endpoint,
Yeah.
and you want that endpoint to be accessed, I don't know, by all of the people that are trying to go on it, but you set the limit, I don't know, to be available only for 60.
That is your...
The other 40 shouldn't be ignored.
Yeah.
To wait for the first 60.
100% agreed, 100% agreed, and this is our responsibility, or the owner's responsibility who is hosting the application. This is never a fixed number. It will never be fixed. If you think you're going to configure these numbers once and change the business model, processes, customer type You cannot keep it because those new strategic changes on the organization or your baseline traffic would change and the requirements will change. So you have to keep on adapting it. We do that. I mean, if let's say I'm somehow encapsulated from the marketing department of the company, if they start doing marketing campaign, and if I have very aggressive blocking, we might just lose more. We do bad branding rather than good branding, right? Because the marketing campaign will invoke more traffic, and we are not allowing that much traffic. So things had to go hand in hand. And the best part is you create setups where the least manual interruptions are required, and that's exactly where the reCAPTCHA comes in. Because reCAPTCHA is, you are allowed to open the website as long as you prove it to me that you are a human. That's bot management. That's basically there. And most of the DDoS attacks are actually done by bots. You will not find these applications or these zombies going through a legitimate person on a laptop setting and sending the hits, right? So these are bot management. They create botnet attacks. That's what the real word is for. Sorry? I thought somebody had a question. So botnet attack and reCAPTCHA basically prevents that. So what we are going to do is, because we have time, wow, it's 45 minutes. That was fast. So we are just going to enable the reCAPTCHA for the application you opened, and it should get updated pretty quickly. And I will show you what these are. So what we are going to do now, you saw the icon first, it's just a script, so don't worry, it was not working before. But now, whenever every single request that comes will automatically be provided a reCAPTCHA. So we are going for 3 different things, and these are the 3 rules that were fine-tuned, and it took, I think, 8 weeks for me to fine-tune these 3 rules. But this is the most important one, these 3. I will select them for priority from bottom to top. It's allow only for the previous test of DDoS and when you guys open the website. We can change it to deny, but later on. First of all, because all the above rules will not apply to the initial first request from a browser, it will always end up here, which means validate every single request that comes for the first time via reCAPTCHA. That would happen maybe any time now. If you refresh on your website, you will see it. We can just try it here if not yet. You will see automated JavaScript thing. So you might have already seen Cloudflare pages, you know, it have this timer, it automatically comes, middle page, and then the website. That's basically a JavaScript challenge. And reCAPTCHA, this reCAPTCHA would be a smarter reCAPTCHA, which means it does a mathematical calculation, it knows the answer, and it sees if your browser has JavaScript and those capabilities, which means it's a legitimate browser, because humans or any non-technical thing would not be able to pass it. Then it takes one thing in consideration. That's the enterprise version of reCAPTCHA, that it really has reputation for your IP address. So it knows that for all the traffic that your IP address was sending to Google networks and so on, how they give you a score. 1 means you are a human. 0 means you are a bot. And reCAPTCHA automatically assigns that score to you. Even you open the website, there's a JavaScript challenge that happens, and it still assigns you a score. The reason is you have to maintain the score, because the first request can be bypassed by just doing JavaScript. And there are advanced bots these days. But I'm telling you, the attackers are getting, they literally have OKRs and so on. I'm pretty sure about it. I mean, they really do strategic changes. There are smart bots now who are able to solve simple JavaScript challenges from reCAPTCHAs pretty easily. And you can spend 50 million of them at the same time, small pods across the countries in the world, and you have a really nice, fancy, sophisticated DDoS attack, which cannot be prevented by reCAPTCHA. But that's where the enterprise version comes in. reCAPTCHA Enterprise, or the smart version of it, which is called Challenge, it does the JavaScript challenge for the first time, gives you a score, like, hey, Aarik, you are 0.9. We think you are 90% human, right? Then if I start doing fancy stuff like start sending too many requests, or you cannot do it manually, by the way, because on your phone you can so fast click the refresh, it need to happen and so on, right? But if you go to a terminal and start sending 20 requests without waiting for the response, then Google will be like, does not look like it can be done humanly. So it will drop the score. And you control where you want to draw the line. That's where this comes in. So the first time request comes to this firewall rule, and then it takes a JavaScript challenge. Then on the second part, he checks 2 things. So it's just terminology. First of all, if the reCAPTCHA session is valid, because when the reCAPTCHA cookie is assigned, it's valid for 60 minutes. So for that 60 minutes, it keeps and maintains the score, and then it gets automatically updated by a reCAPTCHA. So first it validates if the reCAPTCHA was ever passed by this request or by this user, which would be from here. Second, it checks, okay, what is the score of this person? 0.8 is where I draw the line. If your score by any chance 0.7, you will get, no, sorry, you will not get the website. Then, oh, by the way, this is a redirect action, which means you will not get the website. You will have to prove it now. So either you have to click on a checkbox, either you have to select images and so on. And this bot management is really cool because that's where we get the real customers. Open the website just by proving that you are real, right? So we are under attack. There is a DDoS attack, which we are blocking. It's impacting 5% of the traffic. But rather than giving them 404, 402, or 403, 429 too many requests, you can just send them to reCAPTCHA, which is completely okay because as a customer, you should have the patience and some refresh, like you can do the image part, and it's also fun sometimes. Not too often, by the way, because that's what I learned in my POC with fine-tuning. In the first 3-4 weeks, nearly everyone had to prove they're human. And I was like, okay, if this goes to production, I'm fired. So we have to do fine-tuning, right? So 0.8 is only for this demo website that you saw. On production, we have much less. And Google recommends zones for it. And I will show you now. And I think then we can take more questions. So if you go to security, and there is reCAPTCHA Enterprise, we will see some information about you guys now, finally. Metrics. Session. So this is a reCAPTCHA key because you need a reCAPTCHA key to use the feature of reCAPTCHA by just adding a JavaScript. So if, I don't know, if 1 week. So you can already see that there are, how many requests were there, legit requests which were able to bypass reCAPTCHA. How many are high risk? And this risk section comes from this distribution. So you already see how many requests are under category 0.9, 0.7, 3, and 1. And by the way, this was my testing, and it was not human. So that's why I draw the line 0.8 for me for this demo purposes. And you can always balance it out. So the enterprise reCAPTCHA brings additional feature like, first of all, you never have to configure what you want to do. A tick mark, image, how many pages of image, or a JavaScript. reCAPTCHA Enterprise, based on all the information available for that IP, based on how it's behaving with your application, it changes. So first time it gets JavaScript, but if it does something else, he or she might get checkbox. Or if it's too fancy, Google will like prove it to me by selecting chimneys for 6 pages, you know. So and it gets annoying. I mean, somebody have to give up at one point. And smart bots or the botnet attacks that I was mentioning about, they are unable to crack that yet. Maybe we can use ChatGPT to do that as well, but as of now, they cannot crack the image-based reCAPTCHA on a large scale. It's just simply not there. And that's the only way of defense, only last line of defense for people like us who also have a company and they are also working in an organization and we want to keep our websites up. So we don't show our customers image every time, but we let the Google Cloud decide who should get JavaScript, who should get tick mark, who should get this. And just last time, maybe, now it works, right? So it's enabled. So that was a JavaScript challenge if you guys saw. Maybe though for those who did not look at the screen, I'll do it again. This one. And it validates this mathematical equation and so on. But let's say if I use this IP to do a DDoS attack, and that's why I said please get off the Wi-Fi, they would actually give you an image or checkbox. And by the way, just as a record, it's not the DDoS attack per se, but it's about the traffic itself, the traffic pattern, or the signature of it, not the scale of it. Because DOS is denial of service, just making so many requests that your service goes down. But in general, reCAPTCHA works for all different patterns. So if there is not even significant amount of request, but it's the way the requests are coming are changing, right? It could also be a different type of attack or different kind of strategy from attackers. It would still be able to adapt to that. And that's the smart part of it. So in general, that completes the picture. Any questions? We have 5 minutes only. Yes. We want to empty that box, by the way. I'm looking at my colleagues right now. I don't know which information is in the website publicly and which one is not. Or deny. I can neither confirm nor deny. Thank you. Yes. That's where specific forensic approach comes in. That's basically provided by SOC teams and so on. So we would also have a SOC team, which is Security Operations Center. We would have people who would work actively, not just in defending and preventing and mitigating attacks, it's also backtracking. And that's basically to try to find out what exactly was the root cause. So which includes a section of resources invested in dark web monitoring, for example, or dark web monitoring. You need to keep eye on your organization's name in dark web. Any forum, anything that comes in, you should be aware about what kind of discussions are going, because all the communication happens there. Nobody calls from the telecom mobile SIM to say, hey, I wanted to attack this company, right? That would be pretty damn stupid. Does that answer? More question, guys. We still have 3-4 minutes. I don't know if we do have it, or we have to bind it up before. I don't know. Okay, then we use it. Any questions, thoughts, feedback? Yes. Yeah. Look at my domain. I had a typo. That's why I got it for cheap, right? So, yeah, if you have a domain, you just create. You're familiar with Google Cloud by any chance? No. I mean, then you can do it for other, wherever your applications are hosted, right? It would be publicly endpoint, and you can use Cloud Armor. You can just create a Google project account. You just need, they would need your credit card for in case you exceed. I think they give $200 or $300 by default. So it's enough to do a small testing. There is one aspect that you might not be able to get, is this one. First of all, reCAPTCHA Enterprise is an expensive product. It might be something that you need to check how expensive it is. And the second is, in Cloud Armor, the automated rule suggestion that I showed you here, which is called adaptive protection. It's a add-on. So the policy section is the firewall itself, but this is an add-on where Google takes a little bit extra money to give you the luxury of automated attack rules and so on. And then for this add-on, you need managed protection. So basically, these are just add-ons. So you will be able to see what's the difference. So Cloud Armor WAF rules is very important. And this is where how I connected reCAPTCHA with Cloud Armor, because you cannot use them in the standard mode. And trust me, I tried to save money. I really went with standard, no reCAPTCHA, and tried to make one policy that prevents every single kind of DDoS. And 5 seconds later, I always was able to break my own setup. I was like, it's so simple. I mean, if I can think it, attackers would be smarter than that, right? And even more organized. So this was kind of mandatory to achieve the last bundle from the picture, which was exactly this one, this reCAPTCHA. So this integration, this line here is basically where you would need that add-on mandatorily. Because some kind of WAF is existing in everyone's organization. I can imagine all of you guys have websites and so on. You are using WAF, that's default. But it doesn't help in DDoS. That's unfortunate. So you have to come up with options. Since we are 2 or 3 minutes, I will give you, in case you want to learn more, maybe share some open source code, documentation reference, that's my contact. Feel free to reach out to me. And by the way, we will leave the chocolates at the counter at the end. So still, thank you for being amazing audience and enjoy the chocolate. So once again, Pof the Bona. And yes, of course, Adi.